the best things I've done since my divorce. I know that you guys have done great things after a breakup or trauma, even though it's hard to recognize what they are. But we are 14 years since we got that, for me, wonderful and grateful and blessed call that my marriage was over. Jessica didn't look at it the same way. She had a lot of grief about it, but we have our divorces as our opportunity. And so we are taking this show, Divorce Etc., on YouTube to talk about the best things we've done since our divorce. We are going to celebrate.
Hopefully it'll cheer you up.
Yes, there's good stuff to come.
That's
Trust
right.
me, so much better. The grass isn't always greener. We're not telling you to get a divorce. But if you find yourself there, you're going to be so okay, because look at us now.
That's
I
right.
mean, Jessica's a little stuffy right now, but other than that, you're going to be so great. So why don't you go first? Why don't you say some of the
I
things?
feel like one of the best things that happened for me after, and really it was some things are probably after one divorce, some things are probably a combination of both divorces.
Jessica had two divorces.
Both of my divorces. But honestly, being able to face my fears of being alone. I actually wrote one of our experts in your inbox message is in the newsletter recently about the difference between being alone and being lonely.
Yeah.
And I'm such an extrovert and I so thrive on the energy of being around other people that being lonely is not a happy feeling for me. I can understand the benefits of having alone time.
Totally.
And wanting
Love
to be
alone
alone
time
sometimes. But that was a struggle for me. And learning how to face my fears of being alone is a challenge and something that I feel proud of being able to have accomplished through my divorces.
My ex-husband started taking my kids on super extravagant trips pretty soon after we separated, and also continues to buy them super extravagant things. We talked about this in another show, what you can't control, and that was one of the things I couldn't control. So I really wanted to take my kids away on a trip myself with my own money and just like make it all about us. And it wasn't super extravagant, but it was really freaking awesome. And as part of my divorce settlement, I got like 1 million American Airlines miles, because that was part of the dissipation of assets of when you have an affair and you go and you do all these things. You can negotiate that. We'll talk about that in another episode. But so I had all these miles so I could fly us all free business class to Costa Rica. And I really wanted to pick a place where we could be active and it would be new for all of us, that none of us would be familiar with it. So that like eliminated Europe, because their father had taken them all over Europe and they did all these, stayed in beautiful places. So I'm more adventurous. I don't like to get dirty and I don't like to stink, but I will like kind of put myself out there. So I felt like this was such a proud moment. We did zip lining together. We did suspension bridges, things I'd never do again because I don't have to, but I showed up for my kids and we did it together like a team. And, I'm not sure how my kids look back at that trip. Probably not with the same regard I do, but
if you can't do
so
something
much
like that, like you may not have thought it was extravagant, but
It
I don't
was
think
so
I've ever
proud.
been I have never taken my kids on a trip alone other than the weekend with you to the
But that was
Jersey
a big
Shore,
deal.
which was a big deal to me. So I feel like, even if you don't have the budget or the free miles or something to take a trip like
It was
that,
years, by the way.
if you can, we also did Great Wolf Lodge one weekend.
Yeah.
With our kids, like even if it's something more local, the idea of getting away with your
Even
kids
a
and
night
doing
in
it
a
yourself,
hotel.
like
Yeah.
it's a big deal. It's a big deal. That's a really
This
good
was
one.
like a big trip and I had planned it for years. It was not right after our separation. It took many years for me to save the money, but I didn't have to borrow any money. My budget worked. I was covered, and we had, for me, it was super proud and like one of the most special times with my kids.
That's so awesome. I hope one day to have that experience with my
You
kids.
you can, and everybody has different things, but
Yeah.
I still felt like there was a little bit of a comparison with their dad, and I knew I wasn't going to do it the way he did it, so I did it the way I wanted to do it.
Right.
And
Which
it
is all
worked
that
within my
matters.
budget.
Which leads into my next thing, that one of the best things that's come out of my divorce, which is, learning to care less about what other people think and other people's opinions. I am who I am. I can do what I can do. I'm doing the best I can. I'm hanging in there by the skin of my teeth, just like probably most of you guys. And I feel like we've spoken before about the stigma and judgment and people making you feel shamed about being divorced. You know what? Fuck it all. I may be like Ross from Friends and I freaking own it. It is what it is. I even remember like starting to date after my second divorce and feeling like in the initial messaging with someone new, I needed to disclose.
Right.
I needed to let them know right away in the first 3 minutes that I've been divorced twice, because if that was going to be a red flag or a deal breaker for them, I needed to like give them
Which
the
is
opportunity
ridiculous
for
that it
exit.
would be a deal breaker. But
Well,
anyway, I
was
hear you.
honestly, I was sort of pleasantly surprised that not one man that I've met in the last 3 years since I separated from my second husband, it wasn't a problem for anyone. I definitely was projecting that myself, but for all of the things that you are dealing with where you feel like you're concerned about what other people think about you and other people's opinions, you got to just move past it. It was a lesson for me, and I'm glad that I was able to do it. And
Yeah.
that came from having been divorced.
For me, my next one is being able to stand up to people who I can't remove from my life, who are in my life.
Yep.
Family.
Family and close friends.
And not allowing them to disrespect me, because ultimately that was part of the problem in my marriage. I married somebody who had the same kind of messaging that I absorbed
Right.
and I believed, which was super negative. And I had to make sure that that didn't continue anymore. Otherwise, that would be a serious problem for me and my family if it continued. So I've learned to stand up for myself. I did not stand up for myself, not once in my marriage. And even soon after we separated, I remember he was at the house, and I think our kids were at day camp or something. And he basically told me that, if I had just told him not to get on the plane, he wouldn't have gotten on the plane. He wouldn't have had this long-term affair for 4 years, and he probably wouldn't be engaged today. And that was it. That was a momentous moment. That was seriously a monumental moment in my life, because all the years of everything just finally spewed out on him. And it was so relieving. It was so, it was so overdue. So I don't do that to family. I handle it a much more mature way. I speak through my thoughts and my feelings, and I do demand respect in a kind way.
Yep.
But learning to stand up for myself. I don't take shit anymore. I don't let anybody treat me badly. I don't need you in my life if you're going to treat me like shit. I've already had that.
Right.
I'm over.
No, that's a critical to be able to have that kind of critical conversation with people in your life is very important. And I definitely will I am a very outspoken, loud person, but in some ways I will shy away from things like that and just kind of like hope that it's all just gonna,
it's not going to. But wait, I will say that I was able to do that conversation with family because I had a really good therapist. So you're going to hear us through the Divorce Etc. on YouTube.
Yeah.
How important my therapist was in empowering me and realizing that I can do this. I can stand up for myself.
I feel like all of TH's things are leading into my thing, because one of the other things that I was one of the best things that came out of my divorces, which is a little bit of a backwards thing, is realizing how much I need to prioritize my friendships in my life. When we both separated from our husbands, our kids were really little. We were in our mid to late 30s. And everyone at that point was kind of, caught up in their own lives. They have their own jobs, they have their own families, they have their own spouses,
and their kids were young. Like our friends' kids were young.
It's very easy over time to, be in contact with your friends just by a text here and there, or by liking something on Facebook or social media, and not really like taking the time out on a freaking Tuesday night to go and meet them for dinner because you're so fucking tired and you have everything else and, piling on. And after my first husband and I were getting separated, I was like, oh my God. Like, I mean, Teach and I, thank God we had each other, but I mean, she was still in Jersey. I was still in the city. And so it was like, I needed to figure out again like who my friends were and who my social circle was going to be. And that's something that I have not let go. And in my second divorce, which I think is very natural for a lot of people, you do tend to kind of pull back from those that you love in your life when you're going through difficult times, because you don't want to talk about everything that's going on. And I remember like making a concerted effort during that time of like making sure that I was proactively making plans with my friends, making the time to see them, doing things like that, so that when the time came that we were going to be separating and getting divorced, I had my people around me. It's so important that you have your people around you, and it's so easy to lose touch with people. And it's not that you can't reconnect and be like, oh my God, it's like not a day has passed. Like we haven't seen each other in 2 years. And like, it's just like we saw each other yesterday. But it's going to take a while to get to that point where you can see each other if it's not someone you've already been prioritizing. So to the best of your ability with everything else you have going on in your lives, one of the best things for me was like recognizing that at least once a week, I have to make time to have time with a friend, because they're your people.
I'm going to chime in on that. I mean, when you go through anything difficult in your life, you need your people.
Yeah.
And that's really why Jessica and I started Divorce Etc. And we are the X Experts. By the way, I'm TH and this is Jessica. So we created this platform because we had each other.
Right.
We had each other through our lives, like even from the age of 20 till now, 50 something. And that a lot of shit happens. And really having your people is so critical. I pulled away during the last several years of my marriage, more so than during my actual divorce, because I wasn't functioning. I wasn't living. I was robotic. And I didn't know how to talk to people. And I didn't want to hear what you had to say because I knew it was the truth, and I wasn't willing to face it. So if you're going to tell me again that I need a private investigator to follow my husband around because he's definitely cheating, I'm definitely not going to talk to you.
Right.
But your real friends will always be there. And even though I pulled away, my friends were always there. Now, Jessica and I have always been there through everything. So
and we still saw each other. We just weren't talking about the deep things, but our husbands were best friends and we were best friends and our kids were all growing up together. So like we saw each other all the time. We just weren't talking about any of it.
Because we weren't willing to face it.
Right.
We weren't willing to face it. And it was a little misery loves company. I knew a little bit she was unhappy. I think she could see how visibly unhappy I was, even though I wasn't really saying it. And, but we knew we were there. We were just like, sometimes all you have to be
just
is
sit there.
Literally sitting there with a friend, and just, we've maintained our friendship because we're super good listeners for each other and we love each other. And, but find your people and get rid of the people who are not good. You are going to lose friends. I honestly really didn't lose any friends. I had random people coming up to me because they were ready to call him a shit. I'd be like, I can't believe what happened. And they wanted to be close to me and whatever they were going through in their own lives. But cream rises to the top. And if you have been a good friend to your friends, then they will be a good friend to you. I have old friends. I have new friends. I think I had a divorce friend for a while. My friend matched me up with this girl in the city, and she's like, you're both going through divorce. You could be a divorce friend.
It is a special bond.
Just put yourself out there and make new friends, try things that you like, or you may be interested in doing, and make new friends, around your interests. I mean, we have many more things that we're proud of since our divorce,
in other episodes.
But we are shining examples of friendship and love and no judgment.
And
go ahead.
You can have your own list of things, best things that have happened to you since your divorce. I mean, the point of this is we actually have a list of things that maybe we wouldn't have had happen to us, or
they definitely wouldn't have happened
there
to me
if we hadn't gotten divorced. So while we're never advocating and encouraging people to get divorced, we just want you to know that good things can come of it if that's the road that you take.
Yeah. And be patient with yourself. Nothing happens overnight. You're going to learn a lot. And don't always focus on what you should have done and what you did wrong, because I bet there's
the best you can.
So many great things that you're doing and are capable of doing in the future. So Again, I'm TH. This is Jessica. You're watching Divorce Etc. on YouTube. Check out our podcast, Divorce Etc. on all platforms. And you can put a message here, put a comment, or email us hello@xexperts.com. And we'll see you next time.